Long ago, a poor woodcutter lived with his family on the outskirts of a forest. He had two young children called Hansel and Gretel, and a stepmother that did not like the children. One day, when times were hard, his wife said, "We must take the children out into the forest and leave them there to take care of themselves. That way maybe we will have a chance, or else then we will all die." Hansel heard his parents talking. When he told Gretel what he had heard, she cried, "How can we manage alone in the woods?" "Hush, Gretel," said Hansel, "we will think of something." That night, the stepmother gave them all a piece of bread, and they walked deep into the forest to gather wood. Hansel lagged behind, though, and started to drop pieces of bread on the ground from time to time. The children were so tired that they fell fast asleep after they ate. When they awoke, they were alone in the dark. "How will we ever get out of the forest?" cried Gretel. But Hansel told her that he had left a trail of breadcrumbs in the forest, so they could find their way back. Unfortunately for them, hungry birds in the forest had eaten up every crumb, and the poor children were truly lost in the forest. Hansel and Gretel walked all night and all the next day, and when they had finally gotten out of the forest, they came upon a house. The house was made of gingerbread and candy, and the hungry children broke off pieces of the house and began to eat. Their mouths were full of food when they heard a sweet and gentle voice say, "You poor hungry children, you must be starving, but you do not have to eat pieces of my house. Come in, and I will give you better food." The old woman gave Hansel and Gretel a large meal. They had never seen so much food before, and after they ate, the old woman put them to sleep in soft beds and warm, soft covers. But while they slept soundly, the old woman dragged Hansel to a wooden cage and locked him in it. Every morning the old woman told Hansel to hold out his finger so she could feel how fat he was growing. But Hansel was smarter than that, so he held out an old bone. That way it made him seem thinner than what he really was. In the meantime, the old woman made Gretel work to the bone doing chores. After 4 weeks, Hansel did not seem to be any fatter, but the old woman decided that she was going to eat him and eat Gretel as well. The old woman told Gretel to climb into the big oven to see if it was hot, but Gretel pushed her in. Gretel then ran to free Hansel. "Hansel, we're saved. The old mean woman is dead," cried Gretel. She unlocked Hansel's cage. Then the two children stuffed their pockets with jewels that they found in the house, and they took as much food as they could carry for their journey. After hours of walking, they finally found home. When they saw their own house and their father, they ran to him. Their father could not believe his eyes. The poor old woodcutter laughed and cried with joy to see his children again. He had been very sad since his evil wife had made him leave them in the forest. After his wife died, he had searched for the children. The jewels would buy them food for the rest of their days, their worries were over, and they lived happily ever after.
This is a tale of St. George and the Dragon. It has been told for over 15 centuries. The Queen of Fairies had taken young George in as a baby. The fairies raised the child until he was a young knight. The fairies taught him to be brave, strong, calm, courteous, quick, and clever. The Queen of Fairies called him to see her. "Your journey starts today. You have many adventures ahead. Your fantastic quest will take 6 years. The world is filled with monsters and battles. You will meet kind princesses, evil princes. Always remember one thing," the Queen added. "Your greatest weapon, George, is your brain." Then George set off. He traveled for weeks. As he approached Silene, he noticed the land changed from lush and green to dark and desolate. It seemed the ground had been crossed by fire. There was no grass, only the darkest mud. Then George finally saw a castle in the distance. The gate was closed up tight. When he got closer, he saw a young lady. She crept quietly through the gate and up to George. "Have you no sense? You would do well to leave here now and never return. But I am a brave knight, here to help you. Alas, sir, you are but one man. I fear that you cannot help. It is my destiny." "I am Princess Sabra," she said. Sabra explained why the kingdom had been living in fear. There was a huge dragon terrorizing their kingdom. They came to a cave in the dark forest where a wise old hermit lived. Sabra and George crept up to the old hermit, who stared into his fire. He did not turn to look at them. Suddenly, the hermit spoke. Long ago it was told, 2 brave knights would come to know, the only way to save the rest, the serpent's weakness, is in his breath. With those words, an ancient hourglass appeared at their feet. George did not understand. He asked the strange man, but the hermit would speak no more. As they approached the cave, the dragon suddenly stirred. George watched as the last grain of sand went through the hourglass. Then he threw it into the dragon's mouth, and the dragon, instead of breathing fire, breathed snow. The two had defeated the dragon and arrived at the fairy queen's court amidst cries of joy and triumph. The queen knighted the two and offered George reward money. But George did not want the reward money, for he had many more adventures to go on. His story is told as an example of bravery still today.
Follow me.
What is that? What did you do to her?
Have you ever wondered why your life is so perfect here in Omelas? This child lives in poverty every day and suffers for the good of everyone else. Now that you've become of age in our society, you can either live with the knowledge that she is suffering for you, or you can be the ones who walk away from Omelas.
I have to choose?
Yeah, you have to choose.
I can't stay here.